Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.
Hello and welcome to Monday's Postcast. I'm Maddie Plough and I'm joined on the sofa by James Hill, who made his debut on the Postcast a few weeks ago. And we've also got Tom Siegel and Paul Binfield from Paddy Power as well. Coming up on today's Postcast, we're going to look ahead to the Sun Chariot Day at Newmarket on Saturday. We're going to look back at Arc Weekend and Nabel. She was absolutely incredible at Shanty. And also at Newmarket with those big Group 1 races for 2-year-olds, looking forward as well. And of course, there's another chance to win the £25 free bet from Paddy Power. Right. Hello, gents. We're going to kick on with Newmarket on Saturday and the Sun Chariot. And this is a race that's been won in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, 5 times by French horses, I believe. We've got Roly Poly in there as well, Kima and all sorts. Binners, can you kick us off with the betting for this, please?
Good stats, Maddie. And those French horses, they need to win a race now, don't they? 2-1 Persuasive, 5-2 Roly Poly, 7 Kima, 8 Usherette and Al Jazzy, and See You Shake. And it's 10 bar.
Excellent. Okay, Jimmy, I'll go to you first. French horses, many of them take your fancy. Usherette, maybe Kima?
Usherette's the one I like, yes. I think Andre Fabre won this with a very similar mare, Esoterique, a couple of years ago. And Usherette, she always seems to run her best races in Britain. She was probably a bit unlucky not to win at Royal Ascot earlier in the summer. She got no run up the inside there. And she's won at this course before, so... At 8-1, I think Usherette's good value. She does tend to show a better form earlier in the season, but she won last time out. That will be a nice confidence booster. And Andre Fabre knows how to win this race. And you don't think Kima's a slightly better filly? I mean, she beat her at Royal Ascot. Well, she did, but I mean, Usherette got no run that day. I mean, I backed Kima, but I thought I was a little bit lucky, actually. I thought Usherette, with a clearer one, would have won.
Okay.
So she's a pretty good mare on her day. And as Andre Fabre showed with Esoterique, he can get them to improve as they get older. So there could be more to come from her.
Yeah, he's absolutely master of his craft. Aidan O'Brien won this last year of Alice Springs. He saddles Roly Poly this time around. Tom, do you think it could be another one for Ballydoyle?
No, that'll not win, will it? It's a bad price anyway, isn't it? Roly Poly, I think 5-2. Look, she's surprised me. She surprised me when she won at Newmarket. What was it, the Falmouth Stake? And she was even surprised me even more when she won the Rothschild last time. But I think they were both pretty mediocre race contests. I think this is a massive step up. If you look at the horses she's beaten, Wuheda hasn't done much for the form since, and the Rothschild was, See You Shake, and Persuasive was having a return from a long absence. Kima was disappointed. That was when the Rouget horses were a little bit in and out. I still don't think they're in the greatest form they've been all season. So no, I'd be surprised if Roly Poly win, but then I was being surprised when US Army, Navy flag or whatever it wins, and all these O'Brien ones. He's such a brilliant trainer that she could be better. She'll have to be better than she's ever been to win, but that could easily be the case, despite it being her 76th run this season.
Okay, Persuasive for you then, is it?
Yeah, I like her, but she's the favourite. I mean, I think John Gosden, this will have been the plan all season long. I thought she was good in the Matron last time behind Hydrangea and Winter. I think, she was a long way back. She was drawn on the outside. She did well to finish where she did. She was 3 lengths or so in front of Kima, and she's no reason why she can't be here. But I'm with Jimmy there a bit. I think Usherette's got a chance, and I think Al Jazzy's got a chance too. I think she was really impressive at Sandown. Now, that was probably because they went too fast and set it up for her coming off the pace. But, her form she just seems like she's getting better. She's
improving,
Yeah, she was split Kima and Usherette at Ascot. She was even more impressive at Sandown last time, and I can see her running a massive race too.
Okay, excellent. We're going to now also talk about the Tote Scoop 6 Challenge Cup at Ascot. Labrisa Breeze won this race last year, and I believe Mojito is one of the favourites for this one, Binners?
Yep, absolutely, Maddie. 6-1 Mojito, and it's 10 Maxime, 12 Burnt Sugar Gifted Master, and a number of horses on 14s.
Right, we've got plenty to talk about here, as these are all recent winners. I mean, Mojito, he won the hat-trick last time at York, then Burnt Sugar won at Leopardstown. Maxime was really impressive at Newmarket. Jimmy, kick us off. Who's your your selection?
Well, Breeze was one of the top weights when he won this last year. I think that's where I'd probably look for the winner.
Why is that, do you reckon?
Well, I just think it in these handicaps, they're so close together. I just prefer to look more towards the top because that is where the classier horses are, obviously. And if you've got one of them in form, as Gifted Master is, then I think they're potentially quite interesting. His form from last time, I think, got a boost recently with Steady Pace. The runner-up has won since. So Gifted Master, he's won at Ascot before. His best form, you could argue, is over 6 furlongs, but he's got form over a mile and over 7 furlongs. And Hugo Palmer's horses are running well. I'd go with that one.
Yeah, he's got some very good back class, hasn't he, Gifted Master? Yeah. Okay, Tom, what about you?
It's a tricky one, this, isn't it? I've spent my life, this year, getting big field handicaps completely wrong, but I think everyone has. If we look back since Royal Ascot, on Saturday we had 50, 100, 50 to 1. We had Stamp Hill in a race, similar race here last year. They are absolutely impossible. There's many reasons. One is, as Jimmy pointed out, there's nothing between the top and the bottom. So basically, you got a conditions race with 28 runners, all of which are about the same, on ground that you don't know what it is, on a draw where you don't know what it is. So literally anything can win. I would be playing at big prices because I think that's what you have to do in these races these days. So
if you would have played at big prices in the Cambridgeshire, you would have done very well.
You probably got the wrong ones, but you would have been at the right place. So as much as I like Mojito, I thought he was really impressive at York last time when he beat Battered. I couldn't consider backing him at, what did you say? There'd been a 6 to 1, was it?
That's it. Yes.
So I'll be looking at something. I think Richard Fahey has good record in this type of race. His Stamp Hill won one last time. So the old boys, Heaven's Guest, Birchwood, that sort of way I might be looking, simply because they're impossible. Why do you want to play at 6 to 1 when they're always won by 50 to 1 shots?
Yeah. So you'd go towards the end of the reliable as opposed to the unexposed in a race like this?
Well, I don't think anything unexposed gets in anymore. You know what I mean? In the old days, you used to sit there and Michael Stout would have a horse that was 12 pounds well in. Everyone knew it. It'd be 5 or 6 to 1 and we'd all back it. Now if Mojito gets in, he might well win. But I think the point is, in those days, you could be sure about draws and ground and where the jockeys were going to go. I just don't think anyone has a clue what is going to happen in any of these big races. Going back to the Cambridgeshire on Saturday, you had horses drawn 27 switching to the far side. When the going stick, everything told you that the near side was better. If you watch the last race on Saturday, at the end of the day, Trap 18 and 17 won up the stands rail. The Cambridgeshire was won up the stands rail, and yet you still got horses and jockeys switching to the far side. So if you don't know where they're going to go, and there's nothing between them, then it's just makes it so difficult for punters that you might as well play at the end of the market.
Okay. Binners, anything to add from you? Can you see one of these getting absolutely hammered in the betting, or?
I'm not really sure. It's a bit early, Maddie, in the week for that, but I quite like Accidental Agent. Admittedly, he's gone up in the weights a bit, but 14 to 1. He only just got touched off by Tabarak last time at Newbury, and 7 furlongs looks absolutely perfect for that one.
Okay. Well,
Maddie, sorry, can I butt in there? When I mentioned Fahey, I forgot Stamp Hill. That's the one. That's the one I'd be looking at. I can't believe he won absolutely cantered in over course and distance last time, and was he 20 to 1? Did you say there, Paul? I thought that was a big price.
Stamp Hill, yeah, I didn't get down to that.
Don't go down that far.
I didn't get down.
That's what we like.
That's how good. What a great selection is. You don't even have it listed.
Amazingly, you got the right price.
Funny that I wasn't looking at your website at all there, Paul.
20 to 1, amazing, Tom.
Genius.
Okay, well, Stamp Hill for Tom then. I'm going to start off now asking the best bet for the week ahead. The whole week, what's your best bet? Jimmy, chuck it our way.
Well, we've got another one of these big long-distance flat handicaps coming up on Sunday, the Irish Cesarewitch. And the one I like there is Automated, because it's being run at Navan this time. And Automated's got a very good record at Navan. I think he's won twice over hurdles. He also ran very well there. He won very easily back in the winter.
Did he get backed for a few 2-mile handicaps?
Did, very much so,
yeah. And the ground's probably going to be on the soft side, which he likes. I think he's got a mark of about 83, which could make him quite well treated.
Okay, so. Automated for Jimmy at Navan. Tom, best bet for the week ahead?
Look, I've been having a look at the Cumberland Lodge. I thought that was quite an interesting race. I mean, for normally the Cumberland Rogers, it's pretty sort of an end of season sort of group race. This time we got Island Real, we got Waldgeist, we got Midterm, we got Raheen House. Could be a really top race. I'd be very interested if Andre Fabre brought over the 3-year-old Waldgeist. Now I know, as we were saying earlier, that the French got wiped out, but Bramato ran a really good race in the Arc. He was badly hampered, and I think he would have been third but for that. And so I don't think they're as bad, or the top ones are as bad as we've been making out. And I think Waldgeist on his 4th in the Irish Derby.
He was really well back for that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was 2nd in the French Derby, 4th in the Irish Derby. He was only beaten 2 lengths by Capri Cracksman, Wins of Eagles. I think that gives him a very good chance.
Form.
Okay. Yeah. On that note, Alex Cairns asks, no thoroughbred win on Arc Day for French trainer, jockey, owner or breeder. Is this a one-off, or do you think it could be the sign of a wider problem? Jimmy, what do you reckon?
Well, I think I've generally felt that Europe have been a bit on the back foot in terms of horses moving to Australia and the Far East and so on. But I must admit, it took me by surprise a little bit that France did so badly, particularly in the juvenile races. They're usually very strong there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd like to see more evidence, really, that it's just a bad,
yeah, it could just coincidentally, yeah. Okay, Tom, would you say similar or
no? I wouldn't. I think it is. I think they have a massive problem. I do think they have a massive problem because I think I think the whole sport is about pedigrees, and I think they cannot get hold of Galileos, Dubawis, Nathaniels, Frankels. They get very few. Andre Fabre has a couple, but the rest of the trainers are struggling to get hold of them, and consequently, if you look through nearly, Wild Illusion won the Boussac Dubawi, Happily won the Lagardère Galileo. Rhododendron, Galileo, Enable, Nathaniel. You can get a few sort of sprinters, definitely Dark Angels, and I'm pretty sure they can. But I think they're struggling to get horses that are well bred. The Aga Khan will have a few because he's an owner breeder. Yeah. But bar him, they're going to struggle, and I think it's a sign of things to come unless something changes quickly.
Yeah, if you look at their good horses this year, Bramato, I think he's by
Rajsaman.
Yeah, that's the one. And then you've got horses like Dabasim, like that. Maybe they just need a few more established stallions. Is that what you reckon?
Exactly what I'm saying. If you look at their good horses, Almanzor was by Wootton Bassett.
There we go. Yeah,
Pramato's by Rajsaman. They are so. I mean, Jean Claude Rouget must be some kind of wizard because those two horses are so far better than anything that those sires have ever produced since. They had his 2-year-old, who I like, Olmedo, who was second to Happily in the Lagardère. Yep. He's by Declaration of Peace or Declaration of War, whatever it's called. And so then they're just not getting that many well-bred horses. And I think they're just going to struggle. If you can't get Galileo or Dubawis, they win the vast majority of Group 1s. Yeah. If you're not getting any of them, then you're going to struggle.
Yeah, they have such a dominance, don't they?
Correct.
Now, before the break, here's your chance to win a free £25 or €25 free bet from Paddy Power. Simply tweet your answer to this question using the hashtag Postcast. Who is favourite for the Sun Chariot Stakes with Paddy Power? We'll announce the winner on Friday's show, and the free bet will be credited to your Paddy Power account.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Hey, welcome back to the Monday Postcast. We just touched on the action in France just there before the break, and we're going to go back now to Chantilly and revisit the Arc. Won in sensational style by Enable. A few talking points on this. I mean, John Gosden in the aftermath was pretty positive about keeping her in training, which is just excellent for the sport. Whereabouts do we think she rates? I know a lot of people are saying she's a modern great on what she's done this season. There might be some friction there. I'm not sure everyone would agree. Jimmy, overall, the Arc, Enable, what was your analysis?
I thought she was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And she's been doing it all season, but I thought that was her best performance of all. Frankie gave her a wonderful ride, made sure she didn't get into any trouble. But she was free enough. It still ran very strongly. She's just so powerful for a filly. For me, she's the best middle distance filly I've seen.
Really? Wow. Yeah. So quite the accolade there. I was looking back through the results of the race, and I just thought, do you know what? Everything seemed to fall into place exactly how it would. The right horses came to the fore. And
it was a proper race.
Perfect.
It was a proper race. You had, an Andre Fabre horse in 2nd, a Michael Stout horse in 3rd, an Aidan O'Brien horse in 4th. It was a strong Arc. But you can argue it might not have been as good as Treb's first Arc. But I just think what Enable has done throughout the whole season, I mean, they haven't been able to get close to her. No. Whatever race she's running, she's been absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
She's been brilliant.
And tactically, Frankie Dettori, as always, spot on. Never in a moment's bother.
Never in a bother. No.
On this, James says that Enable, Trev, Zarkova, and Lam Tara, 1 mile 4, all on soft ground, all in their prime. Who would you rank as the best, Jimmy?
Enable.
You think she's the best of all those we just mentioned?
Yeah, I think. Given what she has done through this season, nothing has got close to her. You could argue maybe that day that Trev won her first arc, she was very, very impressive. She would almost certainly give Enable quite a strong race, but you don't know the bottom of Enable yet because nothing's really touched her.
Yeah.
And like I said, she's been like that throughout the whole of the summer.
Yeah, I just love how uncomplicated she is. I mean, down to the start, she wasn't sweating, she was relaxed, she's such a professional. Tom, your analysis of the arc, and who do you reckon out of those Enable, Trev, Zarkova and Lam Tara would you have as your number one?
If it was a 4-runner race, I'd probably go for Zarkova because I thought she was just sensational, unbeaten. Never lost, always won her races easily. Very similar to Enable, but so far she's shown a bit more speed than Enable. But that would be only if it was a 4-runner race. If it was a 20-runner arc where they went hard like they did on, I don't think Zarkova or Trev's style would enable them to get to Enable. How about that? Good work.
Fantastic.
Very good. See what I did there? I did there? Lam Tara, I don't know where he's come from. Look, he's a very good horse. I going back through I don't think any horse I've ever seen would have beaten Saki when he won the arc that day by 10 lengths on soft ground. But,
horses for courses, isn't it? They're all different scenarios,
Sorry, Jimmy.
I just think it wasn't Lam Tara the last 3-year-old to do the King George Arc double. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think if you've tried.
I know Dylan Thomas did the double, but he was a 4-year-old.
Yeah, so. Could be.
Very good stuff.
The only thing I'd say about the arc, and the only disappointing thing about it, and everyone's going to laugh at me because the right horses won, but I thought there was a massive draw advantage in all the races at Arc on Arc Weekend. If you look at the result of the Arc, traps 1, 2 and 3 finished first, second and third. Trap 4, Bramato was fourth. Order of St. George given a positive ride was fifth and fourth. If you look to the foray, Trap 1 beat Trap 2, beat Trap 3, beat Trap 4, beat Trap 5. It was a big advantage being drawn on that inside rail and being able to sit handy. So that's the only thing I'd say against it, is that it turned into a 5-horse race this year's Arc. That's not to say it wasn't the right 5 horses, because it was. And Enable was brilliant. But that was the only thing that I found slightly disconcerting and disappointing about the whole day, was that I thought it was a big, big, big advantage to be drawn low.
To that, I'd say, last year, didn't they all come from a lot wider? I mean, I think Found was drawn out quite wide.
Absolutely, so was I, but that's different race, different ground, different day, isn't it? I mean, it's not the track's fault. It's no one's fault. What I'm saying, though, is that it clearly was impossible to be drawn. I mean, if you watch the Fillies race, the Opera, the German Oaks winner was drawn 14, and she literally had no chance. The moment the stalls opened, but at the time, before the race, you wouldn't have said, before the start of the day, that was unknown. It's not anyone's fault. It's not a criticism of the horses. All I'm saying is that
that's it. That's what happened.
It was, it turned into a 5-6 runner race when it could have been more competitive than it was.
Okay. I read something on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, said that they thought Shanti had done a brilliant job with the Arc, and having it'll be go back to Longchamp this year. I think they've done really well with it. I think it's been great. Elsewhere on Sunday, we saw the Prix de l'Opera, the Prix de la Forêt, and the Abbey. What impressed you most? Give us one eye catcher each that ran in France over the weekend. Off air, we've already spoke about Patash. He deserves a mention. Surely he was absolutely brilliant in that Abbey. Jimmy, you first.
Well, Rhoda Dendrama I also thought was very good. She came right back to, I think possibly not her very best form, but getting close towards her best form.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, she was a top 2-year-old, and she was second in both the Guineas.
Frank in Enable's form,
and possibly a little bit unlucky behind Winter too. So she's got to be interesting for the Breeders' Cup. That's why they said they were going to go next with her, and the Filliam turf, I think, will be perfect for her.
Yeah, and I know she had that injury, but it could have been a blessing in disguise having that break, and now they've wound her up for this campaign.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Tom?
It had to be Patash. You weren't here last week, Maddie, I don't think, were you?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
And I thought
Lee
did it, and I normally fell asleep when we were talking about the Abbey, because I thought it was. I'm just not a great fan of,
They're running against
exactly.
each other,
It's the same horses each time, but Atash was off the scale good. I mean, the time was ridiculously good. He has got to be the best sprinter I've seen since Deja, and that includes all of them.
Wow.
I think he is...
Do you think he'd beat Harry Angel?
I think he'd thrash him over 5 furlongs. Wouldn't even be close. Wouldn't even be close. And
sorry, Tom. If he did go to America for the Breeders' Cup, do you think he'd win there? I mean, he's taking on the Americans their own
especially
game.
With travelling, it's a big thing
well,
for him, isn't it?
Deja probably would have won if he hadn't jumped that shadow. So
don't remind me about that. Jesus. Listen, I don't think there's a horse in the world that can run as fast as him over 5 furlongs. Simple as that. I don't know, it's 6 furlongs maybe the thing. I think if he got there, got into the stalls, and he knew everything was hunky-dory when the stalls opened, he'd win.
Okay.
He's simply faster. He can simply run faster than any other horse.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, as with everything, there's so many questions that he's got to answer before those gates open that it's kind of hard for us to discuss. Binners, what's your sort of weekend eye-catcher, and can we get some prices on next year's ARC, just to see what price Enable will be to follow up?
You can indeed, yeah. We make Enable 3-1 favourite for next year in the same race, Maddie. Stable Companion Cracksman 12-1. And then we've got a few outsiders on 33-1 and bigger, because we don't really know the format, 33's Cloth of Stars. As far as an eye-catcher goes, Happily, I was really impressed with her beating the Colts. She's favourite for the Oaks and up there in the 1,000 guineas now. And it was a masterstroke by Michael Tabor last year, recommending to Aidan that he runs a filly in the Colts race. And I think Happily will be a real decent horse next year.
Okay, you mentioned there the classics for next year. We also saw some pointers to those at Newmarket on Saturday, and we'll get onto that after this break.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, the Ballydoyle domination continued at Newmarket on Saturday when Clemmy won the Cheveley Park. What do we make of her? Do we think she's the 1,000 guineas winner? I think Natagora in 2007-2008 was the last filly to win the Cheveley Park and then the 1,000 guineas. Tom, kick off with you.
Yeah.
You think she wins the 1,000 guineas?
Yeah, definitely. I think Happily, despite her pedigree, despite being a full sister to Glen Eagles, is going to, the way she won on Sunday, she's going to want further. She's going to be a Oaks horse. I thought Clemmy was exceptional in a very, very strong race. I mean, sometimes we sit there thinking that the Cheveley Park is isn't as good as a race as it could be, but I thought it was exceptional this year. Half a second faster than the Colts. I think she's really good. Going back to what Paul said, I thought it was funny when he was talking about the ARC prices for next year. I thought it was funny. I mean, you can just imagine Sir Anthony Oppenheimer sitting in his armchair going with his brandy and his cigar and going, "Thank God we didn't run this year," and then spitting it across
the happen again
spitting it across his dining room as John Gosden says, "Oh, she'll be back to run next year. Don't worry." But anyway, Clemmy was for me exceptional. I thought she was really good. I thought to be honest, her form leading into the Cheveley Park didn't allow her to be 15-8, and I thought she stepped up markedly, and she was really strong at the finish. To me, I'll be surprised if she doesn't go very close to winning the Guineas.
Yeah, I backed different league, and I thought at one stage she was travelling all over Clemmy, but as these Galileos often do, once she was asked, she was very professional, just put the race to bed with minimal fuss.
That's right, and she's bred along similar lines to Winter, isn't it? So you'll sit there
Churchill,
going,
Clemmy.
Yeah, I know, but she's got a Sprinter as her dam. So we're all sitting there thinking, oh, what trip will she'll definitely get a mile. It won't be an issue for her. I think she's got a really good chance.
She looked like she could even improve for that on Saturday. Jimmy, you in agreement, or do you like something else for the 1,000 guineas?
No, I was impressed by Clemmy. As you said, she stayed on really well, so I don't see the mile being a problem for her. And once again, it looks like Aidan O'Brien's going to have a complete domination in the 3-year-old fillies division next season. He's dominated the 1,000 guineas for the last 2 seasons. I think he's probably going to do it again next year. His domination is incredible in most sectors of the sport, but that area in particular, he's very, very strong.
Okay, so 3-year-old fillies at Aidan O'Brien's mercy, I think. Binners, I can't remember. Do we go to you with the 1,000 guineas betting? What price is Clemmy now?
Clemmy, we were very, very impressed with one of the shorter prices for the 1,000 guineas. We're 3-1, so we don't really want to take a load of money on here. At the moment, Happily 9-2, 12-1 Fredding, 16 Magical and Wild Illusion, and 20-1 Bar.
Okay, thanks very much, Binners. Which of the 2-year-olds which we saw at Newmarket do we think are most likely to go close in the Classics next year? Sorry, we had US Navy Flag, who won the Middle Park. I mean, that looked an exceptional race beforehand, I thought, and then it all just panned out a bit oddly. We had Roaring Lion as well, LR, Cam, etc. Jimmy, which one of those do you think would go closest? Do you think any of them are Classic winners in waiting, or?
No, I'd be surprised if any of them were Classic winners. I think probably US Navy Flag's the best of them, but Aidan O'Brien's got better than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's just one of those who's improved typically throughout the season.
Yeah, tough horse, takes his racing well, but he wouldn't be the absolute numero uno.
Yeah, I mean, he's a sister to Roly Poly, and can you see him sort of charting a similar path in that they find their ceiling?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, he could win another Group 1. It's possible, but I don't think it will be the Guineas.
Yeah, it's so funny how casually we talk about these things, isn't it? Group 1's such a massive thing, but for Aidan O'Brien, he just picks them up.
Yes, no, he manages to find one somewhere for them. Yeah.
Okay, Tom, which were you most impressed with?
Well, obviously Clemmy by miles, Happily second on Saturday. On the ones that, look, US Navy Flag was fine, wasn't he? He was pretty good. I don't think the Colts race was anywhere near as strong as the fillies, but he's getting. Well, what can you do? You win your Group 2 by 6 lengths. You win your Group 1. The amazing thing was the second horse for me. I mean, Aidan's unbelievable, isn't he?
Review?
Yeah, Fleet Review has been, I don't know where, just absolutely in the Acomb, and he probably got yorked, didn't he, by his funny ground at York.
I love that. Got yorked.
He probably got yorked, but nonetheless, he just keeps finding them. Roaring Lion was interesting, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I know you like him a lot.
Going to go to the Breeders' Cup now?
Yeah, I know you like him a lot, Maddie, and I hope you had a few quid on him.
I didn't. I abandoned him. I did like him, but I think he's. I'm not sure scope moving forward. I think that was perhaps the race for him. And
it's possible. There is also the chance that he might just be better. He's by American Sire Kitten's Joy. They're much better on faster ground. He might not have had his conditions yet. When he did go onto the all-weather, he was really impressive, wasn't he? He won by miles with the penalty. So maybe there's more to come from him. But I get what you're saying, that he's not a massive horse, is he? And whether he'll... I don't know. He might fall between two stalls, but I'm not really one for the dark arts of paddock watching. So, on some what we've seen, he's a strong stayer that might, he's pretty good, isn't he? He's won all his races.
Yeah. And LR Cam, a word on him at all?
Oh yeah, I liked him. I liked him. Of all the colts, I thought he was the best one. Really.
Scopious.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting where Mark Johnson comes on, and said, I hadn't been so nervous since his mum ran, and his mum was attraction, and so he obviously has he's got a soft spot for LR Cam already, but the fact that he was that nervous about the whole thing, normally trainers are only nervous when they think they've got a really good one, and he's got lots of good 2-year-olds this year. I think Mark Johnson's probably got his best set of 2-year-olds, and I think probably LR Cam's the best of them. So I personally, if I was to say the horse that I think, I don't know what price Binners is going to give us, but I was
just about to ask him in a minute, yeah.
But I know there was 20-1 or something floating about, and no one really sort of moved the market after his win in the. I was a bit surprised at that. Yeah. I would expect him to be half those odds, to be honest.
Okay. Binners, just sort of sum us up for us. I mean, the Derby, the Oaks, 1,000, 2,000 guineas. After this week's action, what did we see move in those markets?
Well, yeah, in the 2,000 guineas, LR Cam is now 16-1, Maddie, from 25. US Navy Flag is a 20-1 chance for the same race. And in the Derby, really, LR Cam with slightly bigger price for the Derby, 25-1. And as far as the Oaks go, Happily is the one for the Oaks, 6-1 now, clear favourite, with Magical, who I thought ran a good race yesterday. She's 14-1, and it's 16 bar in the Oaks.
Okay, Tom, we've spoke time and time again about how these Frankels, they just seem to gallop and gallop. Would you like that price on LR Cam for the Derby, or do you think it's a Guineas horse?
No, I wouldn't, because I think his legs are all over the place, and Epsom would be an issue for him. He looks, I don't know. That's probably over analysing something. But at the moment, I think he'll be a miler. But I do get the point that Frankels tend to get better as they get further, and if he does win the Guineas or runs well in the Guineas and stays on, he could easily end up running the Derby. But at the moment, I wouldn't be interested in backing him for Epsom.
Elsewhere, Juliet Capulet won the Rockfell and obviously beat the bank through his hat into the ring in terms of the miling division. He was really impressive in the Joel Stakes. Any other weekend eye catchers from anyone that anyone wants to mention, Jimmy?
Yeah, Don Juan Triumphant ran, what was the consolation, you couldn't call it a consolation race, but the rescheduled Air Gold Cup, Freddie Z Red Gold Cup. And I thought he did really well to win that. He came from a long way back in that ground carrying that weight. And I thought it was pretty impressive. I know he only just got up, but he'd missed the boat really. They'd kicked clear, and for him to catch them in those sorts of conditions, I thought showed that he's right back to his best. And he's got an entry for the champion sprint. I mean, obviously Harry Angel's going to be difficult to beat in that, but 50-1, I think that's too big a price.
Yeah, Andrew Boulding's in absolutely blinding form, as I said, with Beat the Bank. And as you mentioned earlier, in these handicaps, that horse, Don Juan Triumphant, he has that bit of backclass, doesn't he? It probably just helps him in handicaps. So 50-1, pretty juicy. Well,
like I said, it wasn't run at Ayr. It was rescheduled at Haydock. But I think both Growl and the winner Brando ran very well in the champion sprint, having run well in the Ayr Gold Cup last season. So I can see him finishing in the four.
Yeah,
certainly. I
know Tom would probably agree with you in that there's not always that much between these handicappers and the better horse of the sprint distances. As Duke of Firenze, he ran an absolute stormer in the Abbey. I think he finished fourth, didn't he? Tom, weekend eye catchers for you?
No prize for originality. Beat the Bank.
Yeah,
I thought he was really, really good. He's just getting better all the time. I think I'll give Ribchester all he can think about and more. I honestly think he's got a great chance of winning the QE2. I think better ground. I think he'll have to go that way. I mean, you're mad not to, aren't you? What are you waiting for? It's like the Cracksman argument all over again. What are you waiting for? He's a gelding, can run in it's just nonsensical not to go for it. Whether he
clearly loves the soft ground as well.
Yeah, I think he'll be better on better ground myself. I think the way he moves and I think he'll be better on better ground. But he's clearly very good, isn't he? His last 3 runs, he's won by 3.35. Only good horses do. I mean, it sounds obvious, but this is what Enable does. They win by a long way. It's like when you watch a football team. If they win 5-0 lots of times, it's because they're very, very good. It's not because things have gone their way. And I think this is the case with all these horses. When you win good races by a long way, mark them up every single time. And I think Beat the Bank is clearly a Group 1 horse in the waiting. As my personal fancy is Al Care for that race, because I think Andre Farr, aims his end of season horses, trains them specifically, as we saw with Cloth of Stars. But I do think Beat the Bank is a serious player in that race.
Yeah, okay. Can we get a price on Beat the Bank for the QE2 and Champions Day Binners?
You can indeed, Maddie. If you give me 1 second.
Sorry, put you on the spot a little bit there.
Yeah, no problem. I'll come back to it, Maddie, because it wasn't on the running order, but a horse to follow from the weekend, Bold Reason, a maiden for John Gosden. I think he got beaten on the heavy ground there, and I think he's a certainty to win his maiden first time out next season. And I've got the QE2 now. I think he's 4-1 favourite. Yes, 2-1 Ribchester, 4-1 Beat the Bank. We were shortest after his demolition job at Newmarket. 6 El Care and 8-1 Churchill, Le Bravida and Winter.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to a new feature now.
New features, we like new features. Yeah. This sounds good.
It's a big winter 4, it's called. And basically, we're going to talk about National Hunt now. And Paul Nicholls. It's a big winter for Paul Nicholls this time around. Obviously, he lost his title in the Trainers' Championship last year. And he said himself that he's going to struggle to retain it this year. Just with the sort of horses he's training, they're all prospects for the future. And he's obviously an absolute genius, so he's clearly going to have a lot of success again. But what sort of winter do we think that Paul Nicholls is going to have? I mean, he's got Vicente, Frodon, Safir, horses like Top of the Game. I've probably missed loads of obvious ones there, but how do you think he's going to fare, Jimmy?
Oh, he'll have a good winter. He always does. He always has loads of winners. But I mean, in terms of him regaining his trainer's title, I think it's going to be tough. The quality's dropped away with his team. Looking at his stats the other day, last 2 seasons he's had one horse that has won him over 150,000 in terms of prize money, which is unusual because usually he has about 3 or 4 horses that are earning 200,000 or more a season. Yeah. So the quality has dropped off. He'll know that, and
he's very proactive trainer, though, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, he's with the new Gallop, the new facilities he's got, and he didn't want to push his novices too hard last season. Everything was geared towards the future.
Yes, but I actually think that'll be even more the case this season. He'll be really concentrating on nurturing his young talent through. That'll be far more important for him than winning the trainer's title. Very important for him that he wants to be champion trainer. Of course he does, but he'll be wanting to focus on his best horses, his young talent, and not racing them too hard, not running them in too many races.
As I sort of hinted at, Tom, it's funny, isn't it? Because he's such a professional that, even though he's not having a great time of things in terms of star performers, Paul Nicholls is going to have a successful season, whichever way you look at it, because he's so good at sort of targeting races. Is there a horse in particular or that you think you could pick out that could do very well for him, or do you just think it's a similar case of that transitional period?
No, not one single. I went through the Cheltenham Festival markets the other day, or in preparation for this. I couldn't find one. Now, there probably is. Probably some I don't know in the novice hurdles or anything, but in most of the big, I couldn't find one Nicholls horse. And I think it's very similar to what we were talking about earlier. It's about cash. He is now up against Willie Mullins, Nicky Henderson, and they are going to France and buying all these great horses that he can't get his hands on anymore. It's
funny because he had Courto Star from France and all that lot, but he just doesn't seem to have a firepower behind him in the ownership category.
Well, he's probably going to kill me like he likes to do every time I see him, but I just don't. He's just probably second or third choice now with some of these trainers, and the guys with the cash are going in and buying over the top of him, and he's really struggling to get good horses. And you've got, your man, Finian's Oscar's man, what's his name?
Colin Tizard.
And the Potses. You've got Isaac Swade and Simon Munir. You've got, obviously, Willie Mullins and all his owners. And it's very, very hard, like we were saying earlier about the flat horses, to get hold of a good horse. It's very hard to buy a good horse these days, either on the flat or jumps, unless you're playing right at the top end of the market. And at the moment... And now it might have changed in over the winter or whatever. Last couple of years, he hasn't been able to buy at the top end of the market. Consequently, he's struggling to win the big races. That, as you quite rightly point out, he's still going to win loads of cash, and he's still going to be the one Nicky Henderson has to be in the Trainers' Championship. But just don't see where these good horses are coming from. Now, you might say that he's got loads at home that are going to, but so's Nicky Henderson, so's Colin Tizard, so's Willie Mullins, so's Gordon Elliott. It's really competitive now, and I think he might struggle. Yeah,
it's wonderful to have that competition, isn't it? I'm just going to throw a quick shot in the dark before we leave you. Is there anyone that we think it's going to be a massive winter for, whether that be horse, owner, trainer, jockey? Jimmy, what do you reckon? Is there any particular sort of horse that you think?
I'm looking forward to seeing Mike Bite again.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing him. I think he's going to win the lot. King George Gold Cups, everything.
The bonus. I wonder what price you could get on him for that bonus.
Well, he's not going to run. Haydock,
oh no, he's not going to go to Haydock. No. But do you think he's just going to win everything he contests?
I can see him winning the really big races. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Quirky, but quite a nice choice there. Tom, what about you?
2. I'll throw in a horse. Our Duke. Who I think is just a superstar. Gold Cup written all over him.
I've backed him for the Gold Cup. Got there after his Irish Grand National win.
Good. Only 3 weeks behind me, Maddie.
Hey, I'm always on the back foot when it comes to you, aren't I?
And the jockey for me is he's been in the headlines for the wrong reasons, but Davy Russell is just such a brilliant jockey that I think the vibes are that he might get a lot of rides for Gordon Elliott this year, and I just think he's just an absolute joy to watch. Him and Ruby Walsh, head and shoulders above everyone else for me, and I just love watching them. So for me, it's a big season for Davey because if he gets the Gordon Elliott gig or rides lots of horses for him, he'll be He'll be back in the big time.
So you don't think his reputation's been tarnished a bit? Do you think
He's too good.
Just a mistake?
It's a mistake. It's too good.
Yeah.
He's too good.
Okay. Binners, last word from you?
Well, we think Nicky Henderson's a shoo-in the Trainers' Championship, Maddie. He's 2-1 on. Paul Nicholls 11-4. Colin Tizard 11-2. But maybe the dark horse for the win. He's been doing really well. Dan Skelton, he's up there in the betting at 10-1. And it's 100-1 bar. So Dan Skelton's come a long way in the last few years to be so high in the betting at this stage of the season.
Okay, yeah, and on that note, again, similar to last week, talk about National Hunt, get me excited, and it's time to leave. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed listening to this, please make sure to subscribe and rate us on iTunes, and join us again on Thursday for the football postcast, and again on Friday, of course, for the tipping postcast, and it's goodbye from us lot.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.